to another episode of the Alphawaves podcast. In the building with your hosts Darren and Kam.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm good today. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm a bit perplexed.
Perplexed?
with London traffic right now. But I don't know. I just like there's roadworks everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought the time for roadworks was over. You know,
It's
normally
always
like
time for roadworks.
yeah, but it's normally like a spring thing. Spring is when you get a lot of roadworks. April, May.
People just don't want us to have a 2024 summer.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I digress. Just a little annoyance.
It is an annoyance. And you know what? On the topic, I have a public service announcement.
Oh, here we go.
No, I told you I was going to say it. For the slow walkers out there who use TfL, you're entitled to walk slowly. That is totally fine. No one cares. But move to the side.
Saying choose the left lane.
Choose the left.
You can't say
exactly.
that.
Choose. I will say it.
Was this to able-bodied people you're talking to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be
We're
specific.
talking to able-bodied people. If you're gonna move your body slow, enjoy yourself. Go for a stroll. But other people need a bus to catch that is 1 minute away, and the next one is 18 minutes away.
You know, like when you're in London. Sorry to cut you. Yeah. But you see in London, yeah, when you see people moving leisurely, don't you always wonder what their day looks like?
I don't care.
Nah.
I'm trying to do my day. And I know what it's like to take a leisurely walk. Like there's times where I'm fine to not, there's no reason to be on time. Basically, there's times.
There's no reason to be on time.
As in you don't have a time constraint. Like
That's not what you said. You sure you want to finish this? When there's no reason to be on time. I don't want to derail
from my point. But there's been times when I've taken like a nice slower pace and I'm mindful that I'm a rare person in this moment. Like a lot of people have places to go.
I'm still stuck on that point. There's no reason to be on time.
It was just phrased uniquely.
Coming from you is not a unique phrase. That's yeah.
I've changed my ways.
Telling.
But let's all digress. What are we talking about today?
A few things, I think.
Yeah.
I think we wanted to touch on assumptions in life, how we deal with those assumptions.
Yeah.
But before we do that, I believe you have something to bring to the table.
Your beliefs are correct.
I like to believe I'm in a good.
Let's
go.
Leave your beliefs where they are. But yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like normally we mention DMs and stuff like that, but today I really want to talk about a Reddit post that I came across.
Okay.
Where this girl from America, I assume, because she was talking about being in middle school and now she.
Sorry.
You know what? It's a slow start today. We just got to accept it.
Yeah, 100%.
We just got to accept it. But yeah, she's left middle school, which I believe is like the ages up until 13 or something, or 14, and then from 15 you go into high school. So she's 15 going into high school, and she was reflecting on her middle school experience and talking about how she was a bully.
She's 15 currently.
Currently 15.
Okay.
Reflecting on her time.
The child we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But good reflection for someone so young. Like she was talking about how she was, really horrible in middle school, just bullied people, was really mean. Sounded like she'd been through some stuff, because in the post she said, I've really kind of got my karma for it. And now the question, I know at 15 I was like, what's going on? But, life is life for everyone. And she was talking about how she wants to, her question was, should I apologize to the girls that I was mean to and had bullied? I was really awful to them. I want to apologize. I don't want anything from them, but I've just really reflected on my actions and I feel really bad about what I did. Like I want to apologize. And a lot of people kind of encouraged it or said, write a letter and think about how you feel, just get it out, or send them the letter or whatever. And people were talking about, when they were bullied and how it was really, how they would have wanted that. But there were some people who were just kind of saying, you shouldn't apologize at all. And you're just apologizing for yourself and if you are apologizing, you never should have done it in the first place. That kind of sentiment. So I have a strong opinion on it, but what's yours?
Two things can be true at the same time. And I feel like both viewpoints I think is accurate, that they are doing it for themselves. But why shouldn't you do it for yourself if you was the person that done something to someone? Like, why should you now not have the authority to now do something to make yourself not repent, but kind of you're in your moment of reflection. So why should you not why should you not have the grace to reach out to someone because you made them feel a certain way? You don't know how your apology or whatever is going to make them feel, but you feel a different way towards that person now. So why shouldn't you show them that you feel a different way to them? Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like, exactly.
But on the flip side, the person receiving that, it's interesting because of the age as well. Like if it was later in life, I would say maybe I agree more with the, you're just doing it for yourself thing. But at that age in life, stage in life and age, that could reshape somebody's whole school experience. Like if in now they've just leaving middle school, going into high school, this is the person that's been bullied, and the person that's bullied you has reached out to you and has apologized. I'm not saying instantly, but there's a big chance that could do a lot for you going into your next situation. Whereas later in life, obviously you would have had time to deal with that. You might have got past that, etc. So now it's just like bringing up old trauma. But yeah, I think it's an important step to take, both sides, I believe.
Fair.
What would you say?
Well, I disagree. I think
I'm waiting for you to denounce me. I was waiting. Those head nods were too subtle. Go on, what's your rebuttal?
I was gonna say, I think and this is less in the bullying sphere, like say if you were friends with someone and then you're apologizing and you want to be friends with them again, then I would say really, really reflect on your apology. You know, like if you're apologizing with a goal to get something out of it, then that is what I would call doing it for you. You know,
what do you mean by that?
Like say if all right, random example, you were the type of person who got into a relationship, cut off all your friends, blah blah blah, and then the relationship didn't work out, and now because that hasn't worked out, you want to be friends with all your friends again. And you're not necessarily apologizing because you reflected on something and you now feel bad and you're like, damn, that wasn't really the right way to act. You want to apologize because you want something, like you want to be part of that friendship group again. That I think is different, because it's not like, oh, I've sat down and I feel genuine guilt that's guiding me to do something. It's like now I'm in a state of panic because I've lost something and I'm trying to get something else. So that's not really an apology to me. But I think everyone has a right to what they feel and what they want, you know. It is the person who's receiving the apology. They have a right to not accept it. They have a right to have a go at the person who's apologizing to them. They have a right to accept it gracefully. There's just no right or wrong answer. There's no bigger or smaller person with that. They're allowed to feel what they feel. But likewise, with a person who's actually feeling bad about something and they want to apologize, even later in life, I think it's always worth doing it. Whether someone accepts it, whether they don't, that's also a learning curve for you to do something without attachment to the outcome. I've been on both sides where I've apologized to someone and they really threw it back in my face. Had a big go at me, and I didn't feel any regret. I wasn't like, oh, I shouldn't have apologized, because I wasn't trying to get anything from it. I wasn't trying to be friends with them again or this, that and the other. I just was accountable. So it was like, cool, well, I said what I needed to say. And then on the flip side, I apologized and it worked out really, really well. And in both situations, no friendship was rekindled, but there was peace, you know. And there was nothing sitting on your chest like, oh, I wish I told that person how I feel.
Because that's my angle as well. Like you never know what's gonna happen in life, right? And as long they might still look at you as the person that done them wrong, but as long as you know that you've had that opportunity to express your what's the word I'm thinking of? Not forgiveness, your remorse to the situation. I think you can sleep easy.
You
Whether the other person
can.
can or can't, that's a different situation. But that, in the nicest way possible, that's not your
Responsibility.
yes.
Mm.
Like it's that's not your responsibility. Like
Yeah.
the way you made them feel prior is on you.
Mm.
How they feel after
Yeah.
is not.
Exactly. And even if you reach out to apologize and someone just slams the door in your face,
Mm.
that's okay too. You know, like I think if you're doing,
But you have to be willing to accept that though.
that's the thing. And I think for me, like if you're coming with a genuine apology and you just want to share that, then yeah, it does hurt when you're not able to do that and it doesn't end peacefully in terms of everyone kind of being on the same page and it's genuinely peaceful. But you do sleep easier having tried.
Yeah. But you got to live with the consequences of your actions. So
Yeah.
however the person wants to deal with you, you just got to hold it because you was the person that made them feel a way about it anyway.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, as long as you're willing to accept whatever reaction you get, then I don't think you can be in the wrong. It's only
Yeah.
now if you don't like the reaction that you get because you expected a different reaction.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that.
Yeah,
That's
you can't
impossible.
be delusionally optimistic like, oh, my apology is going to change everything and we're going to be cool and it's totally fine or it's really going to help them. It will do whatever it does to them, but you have to accept that.
Do you think it's wrong to not only want to apologize because it will do something for you, but that's your main driving force behind it? Do you think that's wrong?
I think that is wrong because that's not
Really?
an apology.
No, but it's like
Wait, what do you mean? Like, do something for you in what way?
whether it makes you feel good, maybe whether it gives you closure, peace of mind, all
That's
of these
fine.
things.
All those things I think is not a bad thing to want. Of course, you should want peace within yourself, you know, that you should want that. I encourage you to go after that in whatever way you can. But I think if you're like, oh, I've had a conflict with this person, and now that we're performing together at the same place, now I'm going to apologize to them. Or that person's working in a place where they can now do me a favor, so now I'm going to make peace with them. That's not an apology.
Isn't that smart though?
No, because people can see through it.
I get it.
And now you've just apologized for no reason.
But what if you are genuinely sorry, but you've never had a reason to apologize before? Like, imagine your two scenarios that you just mentioned. Let's say a work scenario. You had a little situation back in school with this person, and you left school, you never ever seen them again. And when you think of them, you're like, if I don't know why I done that, but it is what it is. I'm not going to reach out to them. It's not that deep.
Yeah.
Then you just so happen you go to work somewhere and they work there, and just to make your life easier now, you're going to apologize.
Well, that's different. That's circumstantial. That's like, I wasn't expecting you to be there, and now you're here, you know, like, I'm glad you're here.
But would you think that's genuine though? Is it not? Like, that's my point. It's circumstances. Does that mean it's genuine, or is it just because of circumstances you're doing it now?
This is such a grey area because for me, like the difference for me is, say I've fallen out with someone and now we're working in the same place. And because we're working in the same place and I'm seeing them, I'm like, oh, the universe has brought us together. Like an opportunity has come out.
Yeah.
But it's not like, oh, there's a job at this place, I'm interviewing for it, and I can see on LinkedIn that this person works there, so now I'm going to message them. And do you know what I mean? It's the intention behind things that really counts. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Put yourself in the position of somebody that's been wronged, yeah? I'm not going to say bullied because it's whatever. But you've been wronged, yeah? And somebody is now coming to apologize for it. What are you looking for from them for you to, like, take it in properly?
Depends, you know, like if you're rebuilding or you have a relationship with them of any kind, then you'd want changed behavior. That's, I think, the only thing. If there's no connection there, you're not really reviving the connection, then I've already gotten something I wasn't expecting. So it's just left there.
if in the first scenario you still are speaking to them, etc., and you just kind of taken distance, but you still speak to them, yeah. If it's a friend, do you think it's your responsibility to let them know what they've done is wrong?
No, my responsibility is myself. And this is such a mindset shift for me, because I would always say, you have to tell people what they've done wrong and blah, blah, blah. People know, you know. I think if someone's done something and it's like a bit out of the blue or whatever, and if you in yourself feel safe enough with that person to voice it out and air it out, then yeah, and then based on how they react on that, then that can inform whether you can have conversations like that going forward.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've done that before, and I'm selective with who I do that with now, because not everyone is ready to hear. Like, some people you can say, I didn't like how you did that, and I don't want that to happen again, but they're hearing, I don't like you, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of assessing the maturity there. And I think now I just prioritize my peace, and I also believe in everyone's ability to be an adult. And sometimes if I'm like saying this, that, and the other, instead of someone reflecting and thinking, oh yeah, that wasn't cool, blah, 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 they're like, oh, Cam's just always on at me, you know?
It's a different mindset.
Yeah, it's a totally different mindset. Like, I'm just very in a, you know, we've used the word discernment a lot, but it's finally sunk in.
That's interesting though, because if I'm friends with someone and I've done something wrong, I would like them to let me know if I'm not aware of it, because there's sometimes you're not aware. That's on a minor level, minor scale. Obviously, the example you used was outright bullying. They realize, but sometimes maybe somebody can feel bullied without realizing that you're bullying them. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it might be difficult to hear that, oh yeah, I feel like you're bullying me or whatever. But unless that person expresses it, it might get to a point of no return, if that makes sense. Like, whereas if...
I don't know. It depends on the kind of friend you are. Like, would you say you're an accountable person or a defensive person?
Accountable more times than defensive.
Right. And would you say that you're...
But I know how to defend myself.
Okay, just to let the people know, yeah, cool.
No, I just mean if I'm in a situation where
yeah,
I need to be defensive, I will be defensive.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean. Like, you're an accountable, level-headed friend. Like, you know that if someone comes to you with something, you'll hear them out. You're not just gonna
100%
flip it around.
100%.
You know, you're not a gaslighty person. I'm similar, which is why people can say stuff to me, because they know that I'm not gonna just be like, what, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean?
You're level-headed.
Yeah, and I think, because I've just done that, where I've had like certain friends where I've aired stuff out to them, and I think I'm saying things that are making sense and they're very diplomatic, and then it's just come back with like some energy that I just did not understand where it came from.
Yeah.
You know, very defensive, very gaslighty, very like not taking accountability. So I would always say it depends on the friend. You know, you have a right to what you've earned. So we'd all like someone to tell us something if we've done something wrong. And if they haven't, that's kind of on both of you.
That's true. I do think there's equal responsibility. No, more so, like you said from the start, you're responsible for yourself more than anything. Because
even like, we're all capable of it. Like, even when you, like, you know, when you've annoyed someone, like, it's not just you sit there and wait for someone to say something. Like, you yourself or myself, if I feel like I might have done something to upset someone or crossed the line with something, I'll approach them before they approach me sometimes, which is why my friends hopefully feel comfortable telling me about myself when they feel a type of way about something.
But sometimes you're like, you can downplay a situation where you don't realize what you've done. I was in a situation, I witnessed the situation today, let me say, recently, not even today, where somebody has said something about somebody in front of them, but like it's a group setting. One friend has said something about another friend to the rest of the group, but
And was that other friend there?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But it wasn't serious. It was like a joke. But that person didn't take it as a joke, if that makes sense, because they're like, oh no, what you joked about is very serious to me. And they now could look upon that as if you've done something wrong to me, but the person that's done it is just like, oh, it's not that serious, get over it, kind of thing. Yeah. And let's say that they don't address it, that could build a lot of resentment between the two, whereas if right off the back of it that person just stopped them and said, what you done, I don't appreciate what you done, and that other person then has the chance right there and there to be like, oh sorry, I didn't mean to. Whereas if they don't and it just festers, now it gets to a point where it could potentially get to a point where now there's a fractured relationship when all you had to do at that point was pull up your friend on what they've done. That's what I mean by whose responsibility.
But also in that scenario, I would say as well, like if someone's made a joke, that's fine. But then if you've said, oh, that's serious to me, and they're like, oh, just get over it, then why would I pull you up on it again? What do you mean get over it? Like, that to me is a red flag. Like, if you're not making me feel validated or heard in that moment, why am I going to say it twice?
No, but have you never, honest, yeah, been in a situation with a friend or anybody and being like, oh, it's not that serious, get over it, kind of thing, yeah? And then later on, when you've had time to reflect on it, you're like, nah, I see what you're saying. But by that point, that person might already be heated and being like...
Yeah, so then it's your responsibility to be like, you know what, I shouldn't have said that. Like, why can't people do that? Just be accountable for your... Why does everyone need to be told everything all the time? You know when you're doing something weird.
I don't know.
People know when they're doing something weird. It's just ego. Like, you actually don't need to be told as much as people think you need to be told.
But I've been doing this thing recently.
Like, if you can't even handle in the moment being told that's serious to me, and you're like, get over it, and you can't handle taking a second with your own brain after to say blah blah blah, then how are you going to handle a more serious convo?
Do you think everybody's mind works like that though?
If it doesn't, it should.
But this is where I've been having this battle, because within myself I feel like it should, because mine works that way. You
know what? I actually go back on what I said to double down. It does.
Okay.
It really does. Because even with me recently, there was someone who you would say is like just very, very not self-aware, blah, blah, blah. Like,
I would say what people would say.
People would say they would say themselves. No. Everyone would say like they're very not self-aware, this, that, and the other. They use it as an excuse themselves, like, oh, I just say things and I don't realize sometimes, like that kind of a person, blah, blah, blah. And they did something that was really annoying to me. And this time around, I didn't say anything. I just kind of left it as it was and took my space and like just stepped back a little. They themselves apologized for it. So that's someone who in my head I gave such little... What's the word? Like, what's the word? Because the words I'm thinking of are too harsh. But like, just didn't give them as much capability as I would give others.
Yeah.
But they ended up having a lot. Because as soon as you step back and you don't say nothing, people know what it was, you know, what kind of crossed the line. I think we enable people to not be accountable sometimes. That doesn't mean like you have an argument with someone and wires were crossed and you can't sit down after and talk about it and clarify things. That's true. But at the same time, I just don't believe in you having to explain everything to anyone anymore.
That's fair. What's understood doesn't need to be explained.
Exactly.
I agree. I agree.
Give people time to do the math.
I hear you. I do hear you, but I just feel like in friendships, relationships, I don't think you should be... I'm not saying that you are scared to speak up, but if you notice something that you don't like, I think you should definitely take authority of the situation and speak up.
Absolutely. And I do that. I know you didn't direct it at me, but I do that. But like, you also know who to do that with.
Yeah,
like who words work well with and who actions work better with, you know?
That's fair to say. Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm not going to keep giving myself a headache over people.
No, 100%. I agree. I agree. That's a smart way to look at it.
Yeah, I think so. I never used to do that. I used to be very vocal before with everyone about everything. And then now I'm just like, well, why would I expect that of someone who, when I've seen how they interact with their friends, they can't do it, you know? Like, why would I expect you to be different with me just because we're closer?
Yeah, because well, it kind of ties into our next subject without moving on to it. It does come down to people assuming stuff about other people, like assuming that people think the same way that you think.
Yeah.
And sometimes that assumption could be the problem. Because if you actually just take time to understand the person or understand their angle, ask them a question. And the only way you're ever going to understand is by asking. You can think to yourself that they're doing this because of that or X, Y, Z, but until you actually have that conversation, it's just going to be blurred lines.
Yeah.
All the time. Speculation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. It's tricky. I hear where you're coming from, though. I do hear where you're coming from. I don't think it's foreign what you're saying, but
yeah, and who knows, like maybe my opinion on this might change, you know, because my opinion before was so the opposite of that.
I don't think you can make it as a blanket statement, though.
Yeah.
Situation by situation, person by person.
Yeah.
Like you said, some people you know who the words work well with, others you might need to take some authoritative action.
Yeah.
Sorry, that just yeah. That sounded so menacing when I said it. I was just shaking.
Authoritative action, yeah. Teach them the lesson in a different way.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that person in America, just to round that one off, I think at that age, they're on the right path. Definitely at that age, 15.
I agree.
Because to be that young and to have that much self-awareness,
yeah,
is a good thing.
Really good. And accountability and courage. It's never easy apologizing, you know.
Do you know how hard it is to admit a mistake sometimes?
It's really hard.
Like something that's potentially dramatically affected someone else.
It's really hard. You feel so ashamed and you don't want someone to make you feel worse. But so that's why it's always courageous to have reached the point where you're able to.
Yeah, no, definitely. I commend them on that.
Me too.
Moving on. Unless there was something more you wanted to say on that.
No, I have said all I can say with my opinion on that.
Assumptions. I really wanted to talk about assumptions because the world is made up of a lot of assumptions, yeah? And I don't think people realize how much of an impact certain assumptions can have on, number one, yourself and other people. I had a conversation recently and it's just so interesting the way that people assume the way other people think. And I don't know if that must be based off the way that you think yourself.
Yeah.
It has to be, right?
Yeah.
What do you think stops people from doing that level of assumption and actually taking it on face value? What do you think stops people from doing that?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, what is it that makes people just assume straight away that somebody's gonna either think this way or act this way without actually looking at the person that you're dealing with?
I would say their own beliefs and conditioning and stuff like that, you know.
I'm glad you used the word conditioning because that's what I wanted to go on to. Do you think that the way people are conditioned from a young age plays a big part in how they then grow up to assume certain things in life?
100%. And even just like their own experiences of things can form their opinions, you know, completely. And it makes you not very self-aware into how you're contributing to this experience that you're experiencing. I think the antidote to assumptions is wisdom. And part of wisdom is
Mm-hmm.
patience
Yeah.
to see how things play out, or the wisdom to know that it's not about you, or the wisdom to know that in this moment you might need to have more courage and ask a question, or to just leave it alone and live your life. That's been my vibe lately. Leave it alone and live your life.
I was gonna
As
say.
you could tell, I'm very, very firm on it these days. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just find it so interesting that your own experience can shape the way that you look at every. No. Let me rephrase that, because you will always look at things from your experiences, yeah. But your experiences will make you assume that other people look at things the same way, and that's the part that I find so interesting in life, because you might see someone that looks similar to you, but their upbringing is so different that they don't understand what you would assume that they would understand. Does that make sense? And it ties into so many different aspects of life, yeah. But one of the, I'm not going to call it surface level because it can be deep for some people, but you see, like, dating, yeah, different cultures, not different races, different cultures within your race or anything like that, yeah? Now, say for instance, you've got, I don't want to cause no divides, yeah, but say you've got an African and a Caribbean. Automatically, you would assume that there's going to be more differences between them two than, let's say, a Jamaican and any other Caribbean island, yeah? But the nuance to that is not even just a Caribbean island. It's somebody born in Jamaica to somebody born to another Caribbean island, let's say Trinidad, but living in London, brought up in London. So they're both from, if you ask them where they're from, they both are from the Caribbean, but their differences are way different to the Caribbean and the African person that both were brought up in London, for instance, yeah? And those assumptions sometimes can cause divides if it's not explored properly, because straight away, I don't know how some parents are. My parents are cool, but I've seen it where parents automatically have this conflict because they just assume that you're going to be bringing so much difference to their household, when in reality, yeah, there's going to be some traditional values that are going to be different, but in the world that we're living in today, your upbringing have pretty much been the same. Like, you've gone through the same schooling system, you've gone through the same growing up in the areas, like, you've gone through everything, right?
Yeah.
It's similar. So you've got more in common than if one was born here and the other was born there, but they're from the same country, basically. I can't remember where I was going with that.
Culturally than ethnically.
Pretty much, yeah. And I just find it so interesting because so many assumptions create great divides. And I don't know what's going to change for people to realize that a lot of the problems that we encounter on a day-to-day basis, politically, globally, locally, is down to these assumptions. I don't know. It's really...
Can you give examples of, like, some assumptions that cause
divide
or have like a ripple effect for big divisions?
There's plenty. I mean, there's plenty. There's so many. Let me think of one off the top of my head. So let's say assumptions that are causing divides politically.
Oh, okay.
Do I want to go with politics? I don't want to go with politics right now.
No,
politics
go on.
is too
Don't
heavy.
let me put you off.
No, politics is really heavy on my head right now. It's too much.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Just local assumptions, yeah. All right, let me bring it even on a basic level, yeah. Living conditions, where we're living in this day and age, yeah. Like, you could have two people pretty much living similar locations, and you would assume that because they're living in similar locations, that their lifestyle is set up in a similar way. However, I'll tie it to politics.
Okay, let's go.
Let me tie it to politics.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest example of it was during Brexit and things of that nature, yeah? I was in places with the same people that I've been in for years. Well, not years, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean? A significant amount of time where I felt like I knew how this person operates or thinks or carries themselves. Yeah? Based on the fact that we're both in the same place at the same time. We come from similar environments, etc., etc. So I could assume now it's okay to say certain things. I could assume it's okay to let me stick on that point. Assuming to say the same, to say certain things. Yeah, I'll take it away from that and I'll bring it back in a minute. I remember being in a place with a couple guys. Then another guy decided that he was going to come along and say certain offensive things towards one person, right? And they assumed it was safe to say because we're all from the same place, we look similar. So they assumed in that moment, oh yeah, these lot won't care. They was very wrong. They was very wrong, yeah. Because there's respect and values and traditional beliefs instilled in different people, right? So I circle back to the Brexit thing. I remember sitting in this workplace.
Sorry.
Was it even a workplace? I know it's a long story, sorry.
No, it's really not you. It's not. I'm just I haven't slept.
Sitting in this place and hearing these people talk so bad about foreigners and this, that and the other. And they assumed it was cool because as far as they know, I was born in England. Like, I won't care about that. But they assumed wrong because, yeah, I'm born in England. But if you ask me, am I English? I'm going to tell you, no, I'm not English. So when you're then disrespecting all of these people because, okay, they might not be black, they're European or whatever. So you're going to assume that it's okay to say that in front of me. Yeah. But now what you've done is now created a divide because I know that deep down in your heart, you look at one set of people as others and you look at another set as you. The moment I don't fit into you, I'm now cast into others. Yeah. And those kind of assumptions annoy the... It just annoys me so much because it's like, why can't you see, why do you think it's okay to... Why do you assume that everybody's going to be okay with what you're saying or how you're acting just based off the fact of where you are or how you've been brought up? And it's...
Or how you look, that certain things are okay to say or...
I just don't get it. Like, it really bugs me. I don't know. And I've just noticed it more and more as I'm going through everyday life. Like, you just assume that it's okay to do these things. Like, some people have never been in that situation. But I've been in the club and someone assumes that it's okay to come ask me if I'm selling. Like, what do you mean? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just little connotations to what you're saying. You're assuming it's okay to say these things, and
based off of like stereotypes and things like that. And
I can't have my back up about it because it's just meant to be okay.
But it's really not okay.
It's really not okay.
It's not okay to kind of do that at all, to have these assumptions about people or the way that they are or what they're going to do, and you don't know who you're or how you're upsetting or hurting someone by having these assumptions about them as well, if they're vastly different from that assumption, or even if they're not. It's still just not okay to really do that.
But the funny thing is, when I was younger, it didn't offend me at all, like these assumptions. It's just like, because I've been conditioned in a certain way where maybe I don't see that side of it because that is where I've come from. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I see...
And also you were younger.
I was younger, of course. So you what you said was key is about wisdom, and that's how you overcome assumptions, because within myself, that's how I overcame assuming anything about anyone is wisdom and experience.
Yeah.
Like realizing that a certain culture might have a certain, what's the word, stigma. But until you experience that culture and you realize, wait a minute, that's not necessarily the case.
It's true. And sometimes those things really weigh on you quite heavily when you don't fit certain assumptions and you feel, it's just such a weird feeling. Like, even for me, recently there was a period of time where I just felt like everyone's looking at me like I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Because I'm not married and I don't have a long-term partner and I don't have kids. And then it would freak me out even more because I didn't want any of those things. And by like the standards of my culture, culturally being Indian, the way that I operate and do things doesn't always fit into the expectations of being part of that culture. So you feel like, not like you're doing something wrong, but that you're definitely letting people down or being looked at a certain way, or like people assume that there's something wrong with you or whatever because you haven't done these things, instead of thinking of it as a choice that you want. And I had to even sit down and ask myself, like, is marriage something I even want for myself? Like, genuinely.
You have to answer that question to yourself, because
I don't know if I've been conditioned to think that that's what I want or what I'm meant to have. But someone close to me is getting married and I'm so happy for them and I love that they're doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to go to their wedding and I'm so wanting to be part of it and involved. But every time I watch them go through the steps, I'm just like, I can't imagine myself doing that.
No, I hear that. It's funny you mentioned that, because that was another example I was going to give you. On a lighter note, I was going to say the assumption can cause a divide in families as well, yeah? So one of my biggest assumptions that I used to hate, when it doesn't really affect me, but I used to hate watching it, is when you do go to family functions and the women get asked, like, so when are you having a child? Or when are you getting married, yeah? And it's like, why do you assume that I even want to do these things? Literally.
And the more you ask me, the more I'm not going to do it.
Or, in the worst case scenario, why do you assume that I haven't tried to do these things? And it's just not working out for whatever, if it's medical or...
it's not my time. Yeah, exactly. Like, these are such intrusive questions that, like... And also, it's just not your business. What if I want to elope?
I think that's the part, like, sometimes when people assume stuff about you, it makes you have to explain stuff that you don't really want to explain or feel the need to explain. And I don't know what it is. Do you think there can be like a comical side to assumptions? Like there's some things people can say about you. Yes.
But it depends on the day, to be honest, because you don't know what you're dealing with that day that might be heavy, and then someone assumes something about you and it makes you feel worse. Yeah. You know? Like, it's just, you can always find a funny side to anything, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it makes you feel like there's a standard that you're not hitting, or that there's like an image that people are looking at you as that can sometimes feel inescapable. Yeah. You know, like, you're always going to look at me as this instead of a person. So I think it is just quite heavy when people assume things about you. But for me, I used to feel like I had to really over-explain myself, or like show all parts of myself as soon as possible to debunk certain assumptions. Yeah. And so I'd be in an energy of overcompensation to disprove things. Whereas now, like I said, I'm just in that vibe where I'm saying less and doing more. Like, I'm just like the people who are meant to be with me and that I'm meant to get to know better will know these things about me in time. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because you almost start becoming like a character of yourself with certain parts of yourself. And I'm not allowing myself to go through unnecessary discomfort for other people anymore.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you deal with positive assumptions? Like people that assume positive things about you and within yourself. No, sometimes it's true, but other times you're like, if only you knew.
I deal with that so often.
To me, that's the funniest part of assumption sometimes. It's like, I love that you hold me to those standards, but if only you knew.
If only you knew. If only you knew. Even that, I don't like it. You know, those standards affect me more, those assumptions, in a more negative way. Because...
Do you think it then makes you have a standard to uphold?
No, because I'm just like... We're going to find out real soon anyway.
Oh.
But also, just like, for instance... like with how I look and the way I am and stuff like that, that I've heard so many times, like people would, especially men and hater-age women, but people would say...
Hater-age. I heard that in about... Sorry, go on.
Like they would just always say, oh, you're just such a princess, or, you know, I'm sure you got this and got that and blah, blah, blah. And my life wasn't like that at all. And it doesn't make me feel the need to prove myself that it wasn't. Yeah. But it does then make me feel mournful for this really nice life that they've pictured for me. And I don't have that. Do you know what I mean? So then it's just kind of like, if only you knew, you know?
That's interesting, you know, because, I don't do assumptions, right? Because like I said, I've managed to get myself out of it, But... even in our friendship, there would have been stages where I could have easily assumed that your life was set up a certain way. And then you've obviously divulged certain personal things to me, which has made me realize that, oh, your life is like totally different to what I would have pictured it to be. Like you're like when we're not talking or we're not around each other, I might have an assumption that your life is set up a certain way. Yeah. And it's only based upon talking to you that I realize that your life isn't based on the way that I thought it might be, Now, say you do have a friend that you don't even get to those level of conversations with. It's kind of not surface level, but you know, sometimes you have friends that there's never a need to have those deeper conversations with. Like there's nothing that ever comes to that. To an extent, yeah. And now they've placed all this expectation on you because of how they assumed your life to be. And then in a moment of need or want on their side, they've come to you with the assumption that you'll be able to help them. And the fact that you're not able to help them now makes your friendship tarnished, if that makes sense, because they believe that you're just choosing not to help them because they assume that you can help them.
I look at it differently because I'm just like, well, if that happened, then that would be the opportunity for them to learn me more, you know, because I would never just say no. I would say like, I can't because I've got this going on. And like, for me, I don't know, like, how do you feel about this? Because on the one hand, I'm just like, maybe there's more parts of myself to show in terms of authenticity, because I don't feel like, and this is the other side, like I don't feel like I'm pretending to be a certain way. Like I am really like a naturally upbeat, bubbly, fun person. I say so myself, but I am like, I'm lighthearted. So it's also like, I think the rock and the hard place is there more of myself I can show or share to show like these other sides of my personality? But it fights with another side that just kind of says, well, why is that my responsibility? You know, parts of your personality come out in different scenarios and situations, as they always do. So why is it on me to assume an assumption and then do something about it?
I get that viewpoint. I do. But it's like some things are just tied to characteristics, right? So when you see somebody that's upbeat and bubbly, you just assume that their time away from you is exactly the same. So that must mean that their conditions are a certain way, etc. When in reality, you just never know.
You never know. And I think having gone through different things myself, that helped me assume a lot less about people and made me more curious about people instead, to be like, I wonder how your life is, like, how is it? And ask them questions and things like that, and have more open conversations, because I've just experienced firsthand that things just really aren't what they look like. And even like bringing it back to our friendship as well, I feel like things come out when they're meant to, you know, like some things are just personal, and as we got closer, then we knew more of each other. It would have been, I don't think it would have been weird or anything like that, but I think
there wasn't the space
for
that's what I mean, like I don't think in terms of the friendship that it wasn't a friendship where we could speak. However, the things that we spoke of wasn't necessarily, it wasn't the space or the time for, because it would have just,
I mean, to be fair, when they did come out, it was a random space
it
and
was,
time.
but but it was off the back of like having a genuine friend moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Not saying that other moments wasn't genuine friend moments, like when you're chilling out and whatever.
But it wasn't like there's this thing that I was telling you about myself. It came up.
And then obviously off the back of that, now it's now opened a space for whenever any of us feel like there's a point where we want to say something a bit more personal, that we've already opened that door to be able to go into that stage. It's not like every time we speak is do you know what I mean,
like that's just been the topic on the table. Exactly. But it's added like another layer to our friendship, where now, like you said, there's a whole new door open where we can just share more with each other. Exactly.
And it's like,
and that's what I mean, like, sorry, go on, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say all that's done is taken away the assumption side of it. Like, that's all that's done.
But there's nothing that, like, say if I tried to disprove certain assumptions in another way without like divulging information, it wouldn't have assumed anything, because you would have been like, why is she acting like that this way when she's blah blah blah? Do you know what I mean? I feel like assumptions only get disproven in natural moments, and those things take time and trust. So, and assumptions, they just, even though it's about me, it's not about me, because I'm not the one doing it. So I don't need to be the one to fix it. Like, in time, you'll know exactly who I am.
I like what you said though. If we replace assumptions with curiosity, I think replace it with curiosity and wisdom. Those two things I think will help.
Because if you just brought curiosity and wisdom there first, you in your head would say, why would I say to a random group of strangers that I don't know, blah, 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 blah? Why would I go up to someone and assume that they're a drug dealer? Like, no one's come up to me and assumed I'm a stripper. It would just make things make sense. No, naturally. I don't know. It's just, I think what's bugged me more than anything is the assumption that some people think that they can just say things in jest and you'll be okay with it. But I look at things and I'm like, what's the deeper connotation behind what you're assuming here? Because I don't think you're just assuming that I'll be okay with this joke. You're assuming that this joke applies to me. Do you know what I mean? And that's the part that bugs me. So, in those moments, how important do you think it is to correct that or be vocal about that? What's the best way to handle those types of things?
I'll be completely honest, I would like to say check it at that point, but I'll be completely honest, it's about how it makes you feel at that point. Like, if it really does affect you in that moment, then you should speak up. But if you can just literally laugh at it, because like I said, sometimes I find the comedy to the assumption, like, you really think that? You're so like, all right, cool. And it just lets me know how you think now, so I don't even feel like I need to say anything to you, because now you've just told me who you are. But other times, if it's someone that I might have thought more of, then I'm going to say something to them. Or if it's made me feel away, then I'll say something to them. I don't think every battle is worth the fight.
I agree. And you know what? I really like what you said. Sorry, this chair is just... you helped me with it. Life would be different right now, but you didn't. So whatever. But yeah, I assumed you'd help me.
I assumed you'd figure it out.
What are you so wrong? I didn't figure it out. But what was I going to say? I like what you said about, like people's, like now that they've said something, you know more about that person. Because I agree. I think people's assumptions will tell you who that person is more than anything. Like there's someone I know who always has a horrible time at work. She works with a bunch of women, and her assumption is always, oh, they were jealous of me for something, or they were annoyed at me about something, or women are just so difficult to work with. They always have something to say. And your assumptions are telling me you're insecure and you have an issue with women, and you might have had a terrible relationship with your mother, and women have probably not been a safe space for you, which is why you see them as such a threat. And maybe you're the hostile person because you hold these beliefs and this conditioning and these experiences.
Yeah.
So people's assumptions tell you a lot.
A lot about them.
Yeah.
A lot.
Like when people just assume like, oh, you must be a princess and must have had everything. I'm just like, you might not know that many Indian people.
It's true. But again, that comes down to conditioning, I believe. Like what you've been shown, what you've been told.
Yeah.
Like someone said, oh, it's not even funny. I'm not even going to say that.
But now when I speak for everyone, we all want to know. Or we're just going to assume. Or you can tell me in like 20 minutes off air. Yeah. You're just going to have to assume for this one. But assume it's funny.
Yeah, no. Swiftly moving on from that one. Yeah, it's a lot about conditioning
and your programming, and that's why I think consuming certain types of media is so important. You know, so important. There's a certain reason why certain people are typecast for certain things.
100%.
And you're subconsciously taking that in as something.
No, 100%. But you know what? My biggest assumption in life is that nobody's going through the same thing that you're going through. And when you're in the moment, you assume that no one else is going through it.
Yeah.
And that's fake.
That's fake news.
It's fake. It's fake. So
I really like that one.
Dispel assumptions is my what would you call that? Bottom line. Yeah. On that matter.
I'm trying to think what my assumption was that I've overthrown. It's hard to say, you know, because I think my assumptions have mostly been about me. That was self-deprecating, like feeling like I'm annoying everyone or something, or like I'm just depressing everyone. Like, you know, those are my things. But
how do you know it wasn't true?
It wasn't.
Okay, I'm just asking.
What was it?
Oh, was I including everyone?
Yes. Apparently, I assumed we're actually friends. And you said we were.
You assumed I was telling the truth.
No, you know what? Let's stop with these assumptions. Let's move on to our next topic.
I'm messing. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about that.
You know what my assumption is actually? Sorry, the penny dropped. And it ties into everything that I've been saying. I assumed that some people just really are unself-aware and they don't know what to do. And that's just not true. People are more capable than you think they are. They just have, they let on. Yeah, then they even know. You have to believe in everyone's abundance so that you aren't believing that you need to enable them.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. Ties into everything I've been saying lately. It's been a lot of the same themed lessons in the last.
Yeah, it seems like you're in a lesson learning period. It seems like
very discerning.
Sometimes you need to just live in your own space for a bit.
Yeah.
And experience life, I guess. Experience your thoughts and
experience your thoughts. Reflect.
Really explore your thoughts. Sorry, not experience.
Take action is the biggest thing, or take different actions and see how well they work out for you.
Yeah.
The less you try pulling the horse to the water and you walk there yourself, you'll find other people there who are more like-minded.
Yeah.
And you can actually enjoy the sweet sip of fresh water in this analogy. First time you made me like talk myself into a silence. There was just no reaction, but cool, whatever.
Where I was meant to interject in that.
I'm just gonna assume you loved it.
I didn't know where to interject, but we appreciate it.
I was just in the analogy, but yeah. Anyway, moving on.
I had a weird scenario that came up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm out, yeah, whether I'm driving or if I'm on the train, I just people watch sometimes, yeah, and create scenarios, yeah.
All right.
Not often, but sometimes. So, in this scenario, you're on a train.
Okay.
Near London Underground. You're in the bits where you stand right near the end of the carriages, yeah?
Okay.
There's a family, what appears to be a normal family, sitting down. A kid keeps getting up. And every stop the kid gets up, but the parents like pulls him back down to sit down. So you just think it's an excitable kid, yeah? Cool. You get to a station. The kid looks about 6-7 years old, I would say. Maybe a bit older, 7, 8.
Old enough to sit down and behave.
Yeah.
That's my first assumption. But yeah, go on.
And then you get to a station and the kid goes to jump off the train, like perfectly fine, onto the platform, etc. You standing next to the doors, do you stop the kid from jumping off the train to help the family? Or do you let the kid go and let the family deal with that?
The better part of me would like to say I'd try and stop and help, but the realistic part is I'd probably just not do anything.
The London in you would make you not do
anything. The
anything.
London in me is like, that is not a child I know, and their parents are right there. So all I can do is make sure these doors don't close while the child's on the platform, but realistically, I'm not grabbing someone else's kid. Like, that's
it's not your responsibility.
It's just really...
It's right in front of you though. The door's open here. You're standing here where I'm sitting. The door's open here.
I'd probably like put my leg out or something, or just be like, whoa, and like try and get the parents' attention.
Yeah.
And I would probably be in front of the doors so they don't close.
You'll try and assist that way, yeah.
That's the if there's two parents right there, it's just really not on me.
I hear you. Cool. Now, this is where the scenario gets interesting, yeah?
Okay. In your world of...
In my world of...
Of scenarios.
Now, somehow, some way, this child is what he or she has jumped off the train and they've run to one of the TfL workers, yeah? The train stopped now.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Train stopped. Train's not moving because the driver's been alerted somehow. Cool. The child's now screaming. Like...
No, I'm laughing because this is just your random thought. Like, that's so... Okay, that's interesting.
The child's screaming and they're desperate to get away from these people. They're saying... The child's screaming, saying they're bad people. They're bad people. Like, they're not saying anything else. That's all they're saying. They're bad people. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at the scenario, but this is just so wild. But yeah, go on.
Now, you've realised that this child, either number one, is the child of this person, but they're coming from a household which isn't healthy, which is making the child feel like their parents are bad people, yeah? Or, worst case scenario, this child does not belong to them, then, and they've taken this child, yeah?
The child.
Does that change how you feel you should have acted in that situation?
Well, the first thing I'm doing is ripping out my headphones and listening to what's going on.
You're so London, it's unbelievable.
I'm just giving the realistic. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm not going to sit here and be the hero in this story.
Hey.
I'm going to be like, whoa, what is going on? Because in my head, and this is a very London thing to do, it's not like this is on me and there's no one else to help. You know, they've gone to a TfL person. They're saying some stuff. It's handled. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can observe.
Fair.
That's all I'm going to do.
Fair.
And this is crazy. I don't even know what I'm meant to be getting involved in right now. This is a big ask to ask me to get involved just because I'm standing by the door.
Fair.
To be super real. I'm like, okay, I'm not always uninvolved. Like there was one time where I was like in this place and there's like, in this area, there's always like this massive, like all the streets are jammed because it's like this big festival party thing, whatever. And no one moves, and it's really annoying when you're trying to get back home and blah blah blah. And I saw this teenage girl with like her toddler brother, and she couldn't get through the crowds, and everyone was just ignoring her and just like not getting out the way. So I just went and helped her, and I was like, just follow me. And I just started shoving everyone out the way to make room, because I was like, if I don't help, she's not getting through. So in situations like that, where I'm noticing something that other people are ignoring, then I will step up and do something. But on a train where there's like 1,000 TfL workers and they're being paid and they get to travel down TfL. You know, I've had a lot of like PSAs about TfL lately, but you know, they can do their job if they're getting paid well, they can travel around London for free. Then that's quite literally their job.
Well, people, assume nothing. That's the point of that.
Assume that if something's happening on a train, I'm not getting involved. I'm trying to get from A to B.
That's crazy.
And if anything, there's a part of me that's annoyed that this is holding up my journey.
This is how I know you won't inconvenience yourself in a situation like that.
Not on the train. I'm already inconvenienced by being on it.
Hey, but
what would you do, Mr. Let's all
I don't know
everyone,
what I would do, but my whole point of that scenario
kids.
was to just prove the point that you can assume nothing about anybody. That's the whole point of that scenario.
I guess so.
That's the whole point.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I just want to point out though, in your second scenario, a kid's run down the platform and he's screaming for help. And in the real life scenario, he just like jumped off the platform. So there's more to work with. I'm just saying, like, there's easier assumptions to make.
Definitely.
If someone's screaming, these are bad people. So I'd give the people something, you know. But I understand, never assume.
Yeah,
never
basically.
assume.
Basically.
Yeah.
And that's just to tie it up.
Just to tie it up.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Alphawaves podcast.
Yes, thank you indeed.
Your place for wellness.
We assume that you've enjoyed this.
I hope so.
And if you haven't, we'll assume you'll let us know.
That part. As always, thank you for all the comments, messages, likes, shares, etc. And just for being there.
Yeah.
Anything you want us to talk about, let us know. Any questions you have for Cam, let her know. And until next time.
Till then.